I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. So good to be here. Hello, everybody on the internet. It's so good to be with you, too, wherever you are in your pajamas. I was actually home earlier watching everybody on the internet. I thought that was kind of awesome. And I sat there thinking how incredible it is that today there are conferences, Twitter hashtags, and full experiences like this dedicated to health and wellness, dedicated to mindfulness, dedicated to raising and elevating our inner awareness and our energy and our overall well-being. And that for me was just a moment. It's not like we've been missing this. I've been seeing this evolution for many years now. But now more than ever, and I think you probably all can kind of vibe this, now more than ever, our awareness has spiked, has risen, right? Everybody kind of with me? We're all here today. And with that, for me, was so radical, because I grew up in a home where I was brought up very spiritual. I was brought up in a home where we were fed macrobiotic food, and we were homeopathic, and I was brought in and out of ashrams. And so the awareness of spirituality and well-being was something that was very normal to me as a child, although I can see how a lot of people around me were very confused by that. And so for me today, to be able to dwell in a space where everyone's in the same dialogue and conversation is thrilling. And it's such an exciting time to see people waking up and rising up. And so for me, I actually had to turn my back on all of that awareness in order to come back to really living in that space. And so I think a lot of people have that experience where we may know something, we may know that there is a better way, but we try to take our own route, we try to take our own direction. And when we do that, we really miss many steps, and we often detour into a darker scenario, and then that's when we have a great radical opportunity to come home. So the first thing I want to really bring up, because I'd like to give you some really concrete tools, not just leave you with some inspiration, but to give you some tools to take home with you. Before we even go into that, I want to just really give you your first step. That first step of making any change in your life, whether it is making change physically, whether it is making change emotionally, whether it is making change in your relationships, that first step is having a really heightened sense of awareness of how screwed up everything may be. And really just looking and saying, oh, this isn't working. And that was the case for me. When my whole life turned around from being a headstrong, fast-forward addict in many cases, in many arenas, to really redirecting my life to become a spiritual woman, to become a teacher, and to become someone who leads from a place of true presence and authenticity, I had to really look at my life first and say, oh, this isn't working. And so if you have that moment right now where you're looking at your life and you're saying, this isn't really working, that's a miracle. That is a beautiful, divine opportunity for you to choose to see things differently. That's a radical opportunity for you to say, I'm willing to see something different. And so in that space of being willing to see things differently, we need to start to take responsibility for our lives. And so really what I believe is that our energy is our greatest source of power. Whether it is the energy that we wake up with that can carry us throughout the day, whether it is the energy that we bring to a relationship, whether it is the energy that we bring to an office meeting or a job interview, that energy is what nails that job. That energy is what makes that person want to ask you out on a second date. That energy is your presence, and your presence is your power. And so when we're doing things that are really not helpful, when we're harming our bodies or harming our minds with crazy thoughts and chaotic actions, we are lowering that energy source. We are weakening our presence and our power. And so what I want to give you today, because I think we've had a lot of great conversation and dialogue, but what I want to give you today are some amazing tools that you can use right now so you can start to raise that level of your presence. And you'll feel it instantly as you begin to use these practices. And so for the past 7.5 years, I've been on a very, very powerful journey of really self-reflection. I've been studying metaphysics. I am now a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. I teach all kinds of meditation, and it is my commitment and my purpose and my passion to teach people the tools with which they can really activate and elevate that presence of power. So I'm going to leave you with a few today. You want them? You guys ready? Okay, good. Yes, good. Okay, good. So the first one, I really, you've heard this all the time, you know this, but it is the most important thing, that if we want to turn on that power presence, if we want to flick that light switch, we have to breathe. And so many of us are functioning without breath. We're walking around and in many cases breathing in the opposite direction. So I just would like everybody to just take a second, put your hand on your stomach. As you inhale, where is your stomach? Is your stomach extending or is it contracting on the inhale? It's contracting. Okay, well then that's the opposite. So we want to be breathing. Yogic breath is on the inhale, your stomach extends, your diaphragm extends. On the exhale, it comes in and up. On the inhale, it extends. On the exhale, your diaphragm comes in and up. That alone can change your life. If you've been breathing the opposite way, it's very likely that you feel like your life is not flowing naturally, you feel blocked, things are difficult. Your breath is your most vital source of power. And remember, if your power presence is coming from within you, you have to be breathing. And so taking that into consideration throughout the day, as you walk throughout your day, as you live in your life, start to check in with your breath. And making sure that on the inhale, your stomach is extending. On the exhale, it's contracting. Now, the other piece here is I want to give you some exercises so that you can actually tap into your breath. And so the first one's called the 1-minute breath. And often this is taught for you to breathe in for 20 seconds, hold your breath for 20 seconds, and then exhale for 20 seconds. I'm assuming that sounds a little bit crazy for some people who are new to meditation and new to this type of breath work. So I'd like to begin with suggesting that we breathe in for 5 seconds, hold our breath for 5 seconds, and exhale for 5 seconds. And you do that in a 1-minute period. So let's just try it together for one round. So breathing in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just take a deep breath in and let it go. The room is so much more focused and still. Does anybody else notice that? Yeah, right? We maybe did 20 seconds of breath work, 15 seconds of breath work. How incredible that can be, right? That in 15 seconds, a room full of people are now more focused, are now more directed, have a little, now you guys are nodding your heads. You're actually awake and with me. Thank you. 15 seconds, 15 seconds. So if you can have that kind of experience and this type of response in a room filled with people in 15 seconds, imagine what can happen in your own life if you start to practice principles on a moment-to-moment basis. And I believe that living a miraculous life isn't about just doing one thing that's going to make everything happen. It's not about getting the job. It's not about having the relationship. It's about the moment-to-moment subtle shifts that we must add up so that we start to expand our presence, expand our awareness, and so that we have this toolbox that we can dip into whenever we feel ourselves go out of alignment, whenever we feel ourselves go in that dark, squirrely place. We use our breath. We use mindfulness activities. We use some of the tools that you're using today and that you've been hearing throughout this entire event. Now, another great one, if you're possibly alone and you may have a little bit of privacy because you have to use your hands, is just place your right hand over your left, right by your stomach. Everybody do this with me. And on the inhale, you're going to raise your hands just above your eyebrow. And on the exhale, you come back down to your diaphragm. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. And inhale up, and exhale down. Take one more deep breath in, and hold it, and let it go. I'm teaching you Kundalini meditations. These meditations are incredible. What they do is they actually lower your stress levels, they produce oxytocin, they can bring you back to that place of your connection to your inner presence. They can help you let go of anxiety, let go of worry, let go of stress. And what's happening is a lot of what you've been hearing all throughout the day is a lot of the illnesses that people may have been talking about are the illnesses that have come up not necessarily just because of what they've been eating and thinking, but the stress that they've been experiencing. And so when we get so stressed, we go beyond the point of stress. We have that allostatic load where we can no longer function. Our body can no longer naturally restore itself back to peace. And so our job as mindful, conscious beings at this time is to use the tools that we have in our back pocket so that we can, in a moment, restore our sanity, restore our peace, restore our health. Your health will dramatically change with 1 minute of meditation a day. Your life will dramatically change. For me, when I started to become a very avid meditator, everything blew up. My career, my relationships. It wasn't because I was doing anything. It was actually because I was sitting. I was listening. I was in a space of inner awareness. And in that space, then you can hear your intuitive voice. You can hear that loud call of your inner guidance system, which is the voice that leads you in the right direction. The voice that says, yes, you can. The voice that says, why don't you go over there? The voice that says, it's time to quit your job. The voice that says, get out of that relationship. And that voice can only be accessed when we take the mindful moments to tune in. When we take those mindful moments to let go. When we take those mindful moments to breathe. And we hear these things, and we see people tweet about them, and meditate has become a trend on Twitter, right? And we see words like this start to just become in our universe, and we see them, and they become sort of part of our awareness, but we need to make them part of our life. And something major that happened for me was when I recognized that there couldn't just be a spiritual part of my life when I would sit down on that meditation pillow or I would go into that yoga class, but that I had to live a spiritual life. That every encounter was an opportunity for me to grow more and learn more. Every moment of feeling out of alignment was an opportunity to practice my breath work. And every experience that I had was there to teach me a new lesson. And so with the little time I have left, I want to make sure that I leave you with this really concrete message, which is that the world is your classroom. People are your assignments, and it's your choice whether or not you want to show up for those assignments, or it's your choice if you want to deny them and go into crazy town. And so we have work to do, and this is a time right now where technology has sped up so dramatically, where we are so fast-paced, where we really have even more stressors than we ever had before. All the typical issues that we had are now elevated and expanded, and our awareness and our presence is so weakened because of the fast-paced life that we're living. And so we need to really make a conscious decision and a conscious effort to tune in. And so those two tools that I gave you, breathing in for 5, holding for 5, exhaling for 5, do that in a 1-minute period. Do that when you wake up in the morning. Do that before you go into a job interview. Do that before you go into the doctor's appointment that you're worried about the results. That breath can be your presence that you take with you so that you don't have to be afraid, so you don't have to be weakened. Use that breath when you feel like you are powerless, because that is how we find our power in powerless situations. And so really using these tools, the one that I gave you like this, breathing in and out, inhale up, exhale down, that will calm your mind in an instant. In an instant. So these two tools, I have so many, I have hundreds, there's meditations for everything, but those two tools alone, if you practice one of those for the next 40 days, you will see radical change in your life. And remembering that real change doesn't happen because of some overnight experience. Real change is adding up those subtle shifts so you can experience a dramatic effect. And as you add up those subtle shifts, you start to reprogram your brain, you start to reprogram your energy. And everyone around you starts to witness and see, oh, this is good, this is groovy, something's happening here. And the world begins to respond to you differently. And your health begins to respond to you differently. Your body starts to respond to you differently. You start to have a heightened level of living. And I think this is the most important thing that you could take home from this entire event, which is that this isn't a time to play small. This is a time to play big. This is a time to live big. This is a time to feel great. And that is a choice that we make. Our happiness and our health are a choice we make. And so you can leave here today and you can say, I'm going to take those tools with me, or I'm going to continue on the path that I was on. I think it's really our choice in any given situation to recalibrate and reorganize and reclaim that presence of power within us. Thank you.